My name is Gabby, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be filming a video called If You Like This Movie, You Will Also Like This Book. It's inspired by somebody else's video. I'll link the original video that I was inspired to do this from in the description, and I've also done this video before with a different set of movies and books, so if you like this kind of video, you can check out the first one that I did. I'll put a link in the description, but it's basically like that kind of recommendations video where if you like this book, you would also like this book, but instead it's with movies, so it's saying if you liked this book, you would like this movie, or if you like this movie, you would like this book, and vice versa. I love doing this kind of recommendations video because I love movies just as much as I love books, and I watch a lot of movies, and I see similarities sometimes between movies and books that I'm reading and watching, and so I'm like, I love making recommendations based off of movies and books, so it's like, it's really great to find similarities between the books that I'm reading and the movies that I'm watching. I have a lot of these to get through, and I'm really excited about them, so let's just jump right into it, shall we? Yeah. First recommendation is if you like the movie War of the Worlds, and I think you would also like Sleeping Giants. These are both sci-fi stories. The main similarity I've felt with these is that there's this eerie feeling of like something is underground beneath us, and we don't know what it is, and in War of the Worlds, it's like these aliens were buried underground and they like rise out of the ground and like take over the world, and it's like the apocalypse, you know? But then in this book, it's like, it's these giant metal body parts that were buried underground long before humans were ever on this planet, and so it gives you this eerie feeling like we don't really know what's out there, and we don't know what's possible, and like what could have possibly lived on this earth before us, and are they still among us, and we don't know, you know? It's like that same eerie feeling that the War of the Worlds gives you. So I think if you like the War of the Worlds, which I just think was such a classic, like I love that movie when I was a kid especially, like oh my god, and I think if you liked that feeling of the movie, like this eerie, like oh my god, there's something here on this earth with us, then I think you would really like Sleeping Giants as well. Alright, the next one is if you like the movie The Voices with Ryan Reynolds, then I think you would also like You by Caroline Kepnes. This movie and this book are both like psychological thrillers kind of, and they both follow these main characters who are stalker, serial killer type crazy main characters. I will say that I think The Voices is a lot darker of a movie than You by Caroline Kepnes is. I would say that they are both like dark humor though, even though I think You by Caroline Kepnes is a little bit funnier than The Voices, but The Voices is one of those movies that like I couldn't stop watching. It was like watching a train wreck. It was just so fascinating, and like Ryan Reynolds is so good in this movie, and I think these remind me a lot of each other because I personally pictured Ryan Reynolds as Joe Goldberg when I read You, because when I read Joe Goldberg's narration in this book, I kept hearing like Deadpool's like narration, like his voice, so it just made me love his character even more, and so I think that's why these are so similar to me, because Ryan Reynolds playing a psychopath is like everything I wanted for this book. So this movie is very interesting. I will warn you though, it is pretty dark and it has like some graphic violence in it, because in this movie Ryan Reynolds plays like a straight up psychopath serial killer, but he's also just kind of like delusional and he hallucinates, and it's really entertaining. Like he talks to his cat and his dog and stuff, and it's a really interesting movie, but it is dark, so I'm just warning you. But I think if you liked one, you definitely like the other. Right, the next one is if you like the movie Coco from Disney, then I think you would also like Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. Coco was one of my favorite movies last year, and I realized like not only because of like the Mexican traditions and the culture, like these feel similar, but also because in Aristotle and Dante, Aristotle's older brother is in prison, and their family like doesn't talk about him anymore, like ever. Like they refuse to talk about him, and it kind of causes this rift in their family. And then in Coco, it's like, you know, the guy that went off to play music, they don't talk about him anymore, and they don't listen to music because of this guy, and these families just hold these grudges against these people for a long period of time, and it really causes a rift in their relationships with their families, and they are really similar for that reason, and I love them both. I think they're both some of the best shit that I've ever seen and read. So alright, the next one is one that I'm really excited about, and that's if you liked the movie The Killing of a Sacred Deer, then I think you would also like the book The Cabin at the End of the World. And these are both like horror, and they revolve around these families, and they have to do something that's really fucking terrible, and in the book and the movie it's the same thing that they have to do, these families. So in The Killing of a Sacred Deer, it's more dealing with this curse, like this family has to do this awful horrific thing to break a curse, and then in the book it's like they have to do this crazy horrific thing to prevent the apocalypse. But it is the same thing that the families have to do. Both of these are so horrific, and I can't even imagine being put in this situation as a family. movie in particular is really creepy and unsettling, and it's such a weird movie. It's one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen, but I literally can never stop thinking about it, and I always randomly just like remember it. And then in the book, it follows a gay couple, Eric and Andrew, and their adopted daughter, Wen, and it's just so fascinating. It's like a home invasion story in the cabin at the end of the world, and they come into their cabin and they tell them what they have to do in order to prevent the apocalypse, and it's just like, oh my god, both of these are so creepy and unsettling and just like, ugh, but like amazing. Next one is if you like the movie A Quiet Place, then I think you would also like Byrd Box by Josh Mellerman. Both of these are horror genre things. Both of them take place in an apocalyptic world, but in A Quiet Place, the aliens are blind. So the only thing is that when you go outside, you can't let the aliens hear you. You have, so like these characters in A Quiet Place, they like are really quiet every time they go outside and they don't make any sound so that the aliens don't find them. And then in Byrd Box, it's kind of like the opposite. So the characters in Byrd Box, they don't know exactly what it is that took over the planet. They don't know what they're afraid of, but every time they go outside, they have to wear blindfolds because it gets to you when you see it. Like when you see it, it turns you into a crazy person. And so it's kind of different from A Quiet Place, because in A Quiet Place, it's about hearing, and then in this book, it's about seeing. So they're kind of different, but they also have a same like eerie, weird feeling, like the end of the world feeling. The next one is if you like Happy Death Day, the movie, then I think you would also like There's Someone Inside Your House, the book by Stephanie Perkins. The only reason I think these are really similar is because they're both slasher stories that follow like teenagers. The movie and the book have some good moments with the slasher killer, but then a lot of it focuses on the teenage relationships instead of the slasher. And I think Happy Death Day is better overall because there's more like comedy in the movie. Like I thought this movie was really freaking funny, and those creepy moments were done really well in the movie, I thought. But then they both kind of like drop the ball at the end, so like they're both kind of similar in that way too. But I think if you're interested in teen slasher things, then these are both a must for sure. Alright, my next one is if you liked the movie The Shape of Water, the winner of Best Picture at the Oscars last year, then I think you would also like Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. And this is for no reason other than that these two stories follow a main character who is mute. And it's really interesting, and it's unlike anything else, and that's what makes them unique. Like, this is a new adult romance, and it's about this girl named Bree who moves to this new town in Maine, and she meets this guy named Archer, and he's mute, and he doesn't speak because of this accident that he had early on in his life. And then in The Shape of Water, it's kind of similar. It follows this woman named Eliza, and she is mute because something happened with her vocal cords when she was a baby, and then it's her story about how she falls in love with this creature like that's in the water, and it's so beautiful. And I just think that these are similar because they involve mute characters, so they're unlike any other romance things I've ever seen or read before. My next one is if you like the movie Ingrid Goes West, then I think you would also like the book Bad Mommy, specifically because these main characters kind of remind me a lot of each other for some reason. So in Ingrid Goes West, it's like Ingrid gets obsessed with this girl on social media who lives in Los Angeles. So she decides to move to Los Angeles, manipulate her way into becoming friends with this girl that she just has seen on social media. It's so entertaining. Like, this movie is so strange and so entertaining, and this main character, Ingrid, in this movie is just so, like, obsessive and crazy, and like, but she's so fascinating to watch, you know? So I think if you like something like that, then you need to read Bad Mommy, and if you read Bad Mommy, you need to see Ingrid Goes West, because they definitely have the same feel. And in this book, it follows this character named Fig, and she sees this little girl, and she thinks that it's her daughter, and so she moves in next door to the couple of this daughter, and she like wiggles her way into their lives and like becomes a part of their lives, and they're both just like these weird like thrillers that are fascinating. Like, this book was really, really entertaining. Like, it's one of my favorites. So if you read this, you need to see the movie, and if you've seen the movie, you need to read this because they're so similar and so amazing. Alright, and the last one that I have is if you like the movie Thoroughbreds, then I think you would also like Dangerous Girls by Abigail Has. The reason why I think these are so similar is because they involve teenage girls and murder and just like badass bitchness, you know? Like, Thoroughbreds is like about these two girls who go about kind of like trying to kill one of their stepdads, kind of. That's like what the movie revolves around, and it's just so freaking good, and I love both of those actresses, and it's such a good movie. It kind of also, like, the movie reminds me of like American Psycho or something, you know. And then this book also deals with these teenage girls who go on a vacation, and then one of the girls is murdered, and they're like trying to figure out what happened, and they're just kind of similar because it has this like teenage girls and murder vibes going on, you know. So if you're into that, then I definitely recommend both of these. Those are all book and movie recommendations that I have. I love doing these kind of videos, so let me know if you'd like to see more of these from me in the future. I love watching movies and reading books, and just finding similarities between them is really fun for me. And if you have any movies or books that you think are also similar to some of these that I mentioned, then like let me know, because I'm always like looking to check out more stuff like this, you know. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you guys next time.